And Frederick Douglass is the key to understanding that, I think. So, anyway, Chuck Berry, brilliant man. We all love Chuck Berry. What he did wasn't just playing music, right? Because that's what most people do, is they puppet, they play music. What Chuck Berry did is he altered music. See, first there was music, and then there was classical music, scientifically structured music, right? They used mathematics to create a new substrate that humans can enjoy. So not only was there rhetoric, there was just plain sound that made you so emotional. I mean, the classical era is the most wondrous era in all of music because of what it sprang out of, right? And then everything kind of stayed still for a while. And then you had jazz. And jazz learned to sacrifice the beauty of the sound to bring back the importance of rhetoric and the sound of rhetoric instead of music. So, like where Kurt Cobain mumbles, or Hank Williams Sr. has his lonesome wail. You don't necessarily sound the prettiest you can. You portray your emotion, even if it sounds bad. And that was the importance of jazz. And then Chuck Berry figured out how to make music something fun to dance to on a level. And don't get me wrong, jazz music's fun to dance to, but rock and roll, I mean, it just moves your soul. It's amazing, man. Rock and roll has spawned so much new music. When you look at it, Chuck Berry inspired Johnny Cash. And then you go across any genre of music and you find that Johnny Cash, tight as the railroad. That's doom, 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 doom. I mean, I could pull up rap music. I could pull up metal music from your area. The Dirty Mugs, a wicked little pirate. What would it be? Pirate punk rockabilly? I don't know what you call it, but they kick ass. If you don't know the Dirty Mugs, check them out. Amazing stuff, man. And, I'm kind of toying with how memetics works here, in my opinion. Gathered knowledge over generations can alter itself in strange ways, and it usually happens at a toolkit that appears to be inside of the head of humans. And IQ somehow seems to be able to measure some of that. Is it perfect? No. Is it biased? I think it searches for bias. Much like gravitational theory searches for gravitational pull. But was it designed to keep people down? No. And does it specifically, maybe genetically and memetically, have a bias? Possibly. Because, and as I mentioned before, there's a theory out there that there needs to be other tests, maybe for empathy. And I would say that possibly that's true, but possibly also, but I mean, you can have people with high levels of empathy and low levels of intelligence. So empathy is not based on intelligence necessarily. But it does seem that the more intelligence you have, the more capacity for empathy and the more ways you could show and perceive with your empathy, right? So I don't think that, your ability to show emotion towards the world is necessarily measured by an IQ test. But at the same time, the split politically seems to be measured by measuring by someone's conscientiousness, by someone's empathy, right? And I believe that both of those are very, very important to creating a well-balanced world, empathy and conscientiousness. And you can be either born with it or learn it along the way, right? Genetics or memetics. So not everyone can be real skilled in each, and some people are radical to one side or the other. So I also think that the claim that there could be a test for something else is kind of a biased claim in itself, claiming that empathy is what is important. I don't think IQ tests are good, like you were saying. They're not good at testing for many things. I think I mistyped is what you were referring to with one of your other comments about them not having breakthroughs. And you're right, I meant to say that along with the IQ test and then your credentials, which could be a college education, or you started a small corporation that's just dominating, things like that is what they like to see if they're going to take you into consideration, either to fund you or hire you, you get what I'm saying. An IQ test looks good. So what I was trying to say is just that it was important, and not that it's the only factor or that can necessarily tell you something about what's going on in your mind. It can just test for certain factors that seem to have great influence. Now, I'm going to try to end this quickly. Anyway, cultural appropriation. Okay, I agree that cultural appropriation works. It exists, it happens, okay, and I used to be kind of in the boat of thinking that it may be a bad thing. I used to think that, Elvis and all them stole rock and roll from Chuck Berry to bring them back into our conversation. Hey, I've not smoked a cigarette yet. Give me a thumbs up. So they didn't steal it, they learned it. Now, replicators, that's what they do, right? Genetics, mimetics, they replicate. Johnny Cash just learned from what he heard, and then he did it his own way. And in a certain way, yes, it's theft, but to quote Picasso, and, along with a lot of other great artists who have done so, great artists steal. Look, if somebody over there is telling a bad joke, and you can tell it better by structuring it in a different way, a way that they're unable to do it, you're the great artist. So great artists have to steal. There has to be a certain level of that. That's why I agree with sampling when it comes to music. As long as you're not taking the artist's entire work, as long as you're taking little bits and pieces and remixing, and then 80% of it is something you did, oh, that's cool, man. Steal their shit. Steal their shit. Bamboo, a communist rapper out of LA, one of my favorite artists in the world. We don't agree anymore philosophically or politically. We used to agree a lot more. But he's fucking amazing, man. And when he steals somebody's stuff, it's so well. He stole an Adele song. It sounded so good. He's stolen songs. I don't know what their names are, but I've heard that melody on the radio. So, yeah. Cultural appropriation is a new way to try to explain an old word. And it's a philosophical, psychological way to try to explain a scientific phenomenon. What you're saying is adaptation. Cultural appropriation is merely adaptation. It's what we're designed to do. It's what our genes and memes prefer to do. It's a good thing. It's great. It was spelled out as being okay in the Bible. The Jews are taught by God to take on new practices that are useful and to hold what's the word I'm looking for? Holy certain ideas and principles, and not to violate those in doing so, right? So then with Jesus, the same thing, but instead of Jesus taking the Jews around and showing them all the different cultures and how they can go wrong and whatnot, you've got Jesus, in which he is arguing a lot of the philosophical, wonderful points that were of the time. It's like he brought every single culture to Jerusalem and used them against the Jews who were not necessarily being good. It's a really interesting read, in my opinion, even though I used to hate the book. So yeah, cultural appropriation is real, and I don't believe in many cases it's ever bad. It's good. Another way to say cultural appropriation or adaptation is assimilation whenever you're speaking about immigration, right? And like I used to think myself that it was okay for foreigners to move into our country and set up little towns, and it become like this little self-serving region. And I've changed to where I guess sort of like in a since like the Romans didn't care what race you were, and they didn't really care if you brought your own culture as long as you assigned to Roman ideas. And I like there to be a certain number of American ideas assigned to. Whenever someone comes into the country, I want them to assimilate. Like and if you call me as an homophobe for bringing this conversation up, I'm going to come over there and I'm going to lick you upside the face. Just so, don't do it. But if someone comes from, let's just say, Afghanistan, and even Saudi Arabia, who I'd consider a progressive, if that term can be used, Islamic State. I would say there's others, but names elude me. I'm really bad with names. I usually can tell you like 20, 30 things about a person without being able to tell you their name. It's, how to put it? It's the idea, not the specifics, that interest me most of the time. So I might be able to describe the theory to you and forget exactly the terminology or even the name of the theory itself, but I'll do a pretty good job of explaining the mechanics, the underworkings of it. So we're at 35 minutes. I've been babbling a long time. I'm proud of myself. I was scared of this camera until today. I think I've covered everything I want to say on here. I'm sure you know that I could sit and rattle on about blacks that I think are intelligent all day long. So I'm not going to go and just keep reading. I wrote up a huge list. Oh my God, I'm an overachiever. So, man, I just want to say it's been a real pleasure debating with you. I would definitely say that there are things about your style and stance I don't like. I think you're a little hypocritical about assumptions. And I think this is why, I guess I'll do this in closing. I'm planning on getting to, I guess now that this is working out pretty well, the immigration debate this way, in which you just seem appalled by an assumption, and I can't tell you how often you've defended assumptions against me, and I've never really taken that same tone with you. Assumptions are the mother of all fuck-ups and the father of all innovation. Assumptions are wonderful things, man. It's just you've got to have tools that guide and shave and shape your assumptions. That's where eugenics went wrong. And that's where it looks like the bell curve research is going right. So, assumptions are good, man. And I love you. Don't get me wrong, Joey. There's a reason why you're one of the few people I'm interacting with on Facebook. I think interactions with you are profitable to my brain. I like that you hold me to such high scrutiny. Not many people do that anymore. Most people either just ignore me because they realize that I'm a devil's advocate, and to look at me as to look into this sort of strange, weird mirror and see yourself on the other side. That's why you usually see this weird, moderate Republican whenever you read my writings. It's the only way I know to try to communicate with people about themselves whenever I'm not able to use my words like I'm doing now. I'm really proud of myself, man. I thank you for being open to this. I'm at 38 minutes, so if there was another point that I've missed or something, I'm going to say fuck it and say I'm sorry. I'm going to throw this on, start watching it, and see if I feel like I'm interesting, and I'm going to maybe just send this to you. I may have to upload it to my YouTube channel for you to watch it, because I think I have done about 4 times more than YouTube or than Facebook will allow me to update. So yeah, dude, cool. See you later.